project. We got confirmation yesterday from SaskPower that they will begin advertising in tomorrow's newspaper the fact that they will be commencing work at and around our site, and that is the first step in the construction process for us. SaskPower work is work that they will both need to do to remove an electrical duct bank that runs through the middle of our property, and they'll be also upgrading the whole service to the downtown core while they undertake this process. So it's a very necessary first stage of construction getting underway on the project. It's been a long time, as I'm sure all of you know, and the people of Regina are well aware, and we're just delighted that we're finally in a position where we can be moving forward with this project, and people will begin to see the results on the street. Once their work's completed, as they are demobilizing from our site, we'll be mobilizing our equipment, and we're hopeful that'll be sometime early in the new year, but we'll really be dependent on the schedule that they can keep, and obviously things like weather at this time of year is an important factor.
Now, this project has been delayed a number of times. A lot of it has been out of Capital Pointe and BrightStar's control. Number of investors, has anybody decided they don't want to be part of this project anymore?
None of the investors have not become involved at all. Everybody's still in and moving forward, and things are looking solid.
Where is this for the timeline in terms of an actual building kind of changing strategy?
Well, we anticipate that likely the hotel portion of the project as well as the lower floors of the condo will be ready for occupancy about 2 years from now. It'll probably take us 2.5 or a little bit longer to get finished to the 26th story, and so that'll be into the middle of 2015 by the time the top floors are finished.
How does that differ from the original plan?
Well, we were talking about a year ago of the same timelines. We were hoping to have the hotel ready by the end of 2013. Obviously, we've had some delays along the way, so it's really pushed that schedule back about a year.
How can you explain the reason for the delay?
Well, the reason for the delay have really been two or threefold. I think the two most important reasons have been initially looking at the cost of the project. Once we got a detailed construction budget, the costs for some aspects of the project were significantly higher, and we've gone back to do some redesign of the building, which we're going to be unveiling shortly. And the second thing was the work that SaskPower was having to undertake has been much more substantial, I think, than they had first anticipated, and we've had to wait till their engineering work had been completed, and then they let contracts to do this work. And so it's really just been a case of us not being able to do very much for the past few months, but we think we're ready to move forward now.
What is your message to people who bought apartments or condo in the Capital Pointe project and are maybe tired of waiting?
Well, I think all of us are tired of waiting. I think it's been a tough haul. I know people have been involved as purchasers for a couple of years now, and the only news we can give them is good news at this point, that we finally are moving forward, and while there has been delays, the things are going to happen.
Any calls of people who want to pull back and not buy anymore? Do they have anything to do with these people if they don't want to be part of it?
No, anybody who's got a contract with us has a legal agreement with us to continue, and they've made deposits on those, and we're not letting people out of their contracts at this point in time, and have no plans to do so. I think we've sold probably 15 or more units in the last 6 months, even though we haven't had any real activity at the site. We haven't been really doing any marketing.
How many total units sold?
Well, I can't comment on the exact number, but we're about a third of the way of where we need to be.
Now, I know that a couple of years ago you did indicate to us that you had about 6 or 7 people had asked for the deposit back, and you gave it back to them. Anything has changed since then?
Yeah, that was a period of time more than a year ago when BrightStar first got involved in the project, and we did allow people that asked us to get the deposit back at that time, and that was really a short-term window that was a public relations gesture on our part, and but there was a time when we stopped doing that last fall as well. It was really for a short window of time.
So I guess that includes people who would have already had their occupancy date or their projected occupancy date pass?
No, the projected occupancy date actually hasn't even been passed yet in terms of what was first told to people who initially purchased, so that's still off in the future. But the contracts that are written for condominium purchases are all pretty similar. When you're looking at high-rises, and there's flexibility in there for the anticipated delays are inevitably going to occur.
Wasn't the first occupancy date 2012, December 2012? In the first contract?
Since we've been involved, it's always been 2013 was our intended occupancy date.
So, but someone, I know I've talked to someone who had 2012 on theirs.
That could have been the end of 2012, might have been the very original contracts.
So I guess if there's an expectation that within a reasonable amount of time, people should be able to wait, what would you call a reasonable amount of time?
Well, I think when you're talking about a project of this magnitude, which is really something that a condominium of this size has not been undertaken in Regina before, and I think when you're in a market where their condominium projects have taken time to implement, it's not an unusual circumstance that they don't always happen as quickly as first anticipated. I think that the marketplace here is perhaps not as accustomed to seeing that kind of thing. Obviously, there's been a lot of influx of people moving into Regina recently, but overall, the anticipation that things might not happen quite as quickly as they perhaps would all the time has caused some frustration. And I think certainly on our part, we have been very frustrated as well. I mean, we first got involved in this project going back a year and a half ago, and we had anticipated we'd be in a position to start construction last spring, and obviously that hasn't worked out quite as well as we'd hoped, and we're now happy that we're finally going to be able to make some of that ground up.
SaskPower aside, are you actually able to do any of your own work while your development permit is lapsed?
No, the development permit is a component that is tied into our redesign. So we'll be actually submitting within a couple of weeks the official package that has to go back into the city for development permit. Really, we're doing two things of significance that are changing in the application that we're going to be submitting. The first is that we're going to be looking at 2 more floors on top of the hotel portion of the building, so it would now be a 12-story. And without getting overly technical, we're going to take the hotel rooms that we're going to be under the condominium tower and move them into the hotel block. So we're going to keep the same number of rooms in the hotel, 144 rooms in there, but they'll all be contained in the one tower of the hotel portion. The second part of that is it will enable us now to add some additional condominiums. So we have really sold out all of the least expensive condos in the project, and so with our new designs, we're going to have 3 more floors, lower floors of small studio type condos, and that'll give us a whole new market opportunity for first-time purchasers in particular who want a lower entry point.
Okay.
How long will the development process take, the development permit process take?
Sorry?
The development permit process, how long will that take?
Part of that's dependent on the city's review, but they would anticipate, we've met with the city a couple of weeks ago, they anticipate they should be able to finish that process by sometime in February. They send the